Hey friend, listen. I know the world is scary right now. Corruption, war, inflation, demographics, degeneracy, disease, unrest, hatred, and despair. We didn't come here to tell you how it is, but that it's going to get way better.
Got a good thing coming, and it's all I need. Everything I wanted, just wait and see.
Better by Bitcoin.
Good afternoon. A rare but very exciting Better by Bitcoin with myself, Cypherpunk Cine, with Mr. Gilded Plebe and Mr. Anton Syme. How are you, gentlemen, this afternoon?
Doing good. Good to see y'all.
Doing great.
Well, happy Uptober. Apparently, we're in the middle of Uptober. I hadn't noticed. We're 2 days in, and we're up like 5%. Not terrible.
I was saying 2023, $30,000. 2024, $60,000. 2025, $120,000. So if we keep doubling, that means 240 next October.
Yeah.
I just was reading something.
100 trillion in 16 years.
Golly, man. I think it's fascinating, and actually, I think that was kind of the topic we have for today. Is like, October's happening, quote unquote, right? And I'm the new guy here. It's my first cycle, and I'm curious though, because I feel like the biggest issue we're going to run into is actually this is the last October, and the reason for that, in my opinion, is because the finance bros are here, and so unless we do something to get back to the peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin, this is technically the last October. What do you guys think of that idea?
I mean,
all right.
It's
yeah, you go. I'm looking up the white paper real quick. I want to read a line from the white paper. Go ahead.
In terms of the finance bros bumping in, I mean, obviously, yeah, the structured bid thing will take out all of, or a lot of the, it'll dampen the highs and it'll dampen the dips. So because the legacy trader guys just have a lot more capital and a lot more pool in the markets, and they're going to want to meet expectations for investors and also all sorts of other inputs and the rest of that. So yeah, this might be the last Uptober we ever have. If this Uptober ends up even being in Uptober, right? Like it could just be, well, we get the 5%. Oh yeah, we got a new all-time high, and then it's we're back below or whatever. So I'm more of the persuasion that I think I don't know. we either get the Wall Street absurdities and everything's just smooth sailing because BlackRock, or we get the retail hype insanity. Because at some point in my mind, I always just come back to this. If you're always going up 20% every year over year, eventually people are going to be like, I failed to beat Bitcoin. Like it's the exact same things. Like I failed to beat the S&P 500. So I'm just not even going to do it. I'm just going to put all my money in S&P 500 and that's it. I'm never going to trade, only S&P, always bid on S&P 500 S&P. And I think it's just going to be the same thing with Bitcoin where, well, I could have made the 20% of Bitcoin. Instead, I put it in the S&P 500. Like, oh gosh. And then everyone has to switch over and that turns into a big bubble scenario. After that point, maybe there's no more bubbles.
Would it be a bubble though? I guess I'm curious your take on this, Anton, of like, if Bitcoin flips the S&P 500 as the haven, right? Like the S&P, like the spider is basically the thing that you invest in if you're just kind of like lazy or don't know any better, right? So like I'm curious if that becomes the haven for capital, do we see, I guess, what does that do to retail? I don't know. I guess I'm not answering the question. So let me actually ask the question properly. Do we actually get back to an interesting place where if Bitcoin becomes the haven outside of like the market, like, if investing becomes buying Bitcoin, do we see everything kind of change? I guess that's the question, right? Because like right now the S&P is like, that's the safe thing to do. Like if Bitcoin becomes the safe thing to do, do we actually get back to having an Uptober? Maybe we're wrong. I don't know. I'm curious. What do you think?
Bitcoin's going to $1 million. When is Bitcoin going to $1 million? I don't know. Is it going to be next year? Is it going to be 10 years from now? I don't know. If Bitcoin goes to $1 million over the next 10 years, it's really not that big of a deal to most people because most people don't know what Bitcoin is. There's this Dave Ramsey episode I was listening to one time, and he was like, you're not gonna bet on Home Depot. You think Home Depot's going away? And so he's trying to talk people into investing into the S&P because you're investing in a company like Home Depot, and you can drive by Home Depot and you look and there's people in the parking lot and they're buying lumber and they're buying pipes and they're buying toilet seats. So invest in the S&P and then you can take advantage of the profit of Home Depot. That is the way that most people think of investing. So they don't know what Bitcoin is. They see investing in Bitcoin as gambling on Bitcoin. They don't see it as investing in Bitcoin. We see it as investing in the future of money, which is really the present of money because fiat money is dead. People just don't know it yet. But it could be another 10 years. If Bitcoin goes up $100,000 in price every year for the next 10 years, there still are going to be tons of people who are like, now it's $200,000. I'm not investing in it now. That's too risky. Now it's $300. I'm definitely not investing in it. And they're going to keep doing that. So I don't think that it just replaces the S&P because people want to invest in Apple. They want to invest in, physical companies and things like that. And that's fine. They can do that. But as far as what makes the price go up, the price goes up when people are buying Bitcoin. When the price goes up too high, too fast, and people are like, oh, I got to take profit, and they sell tons of Bitcoin, that's when the price goes down. So the reason that we named the episode the Bitcoin gray market is because if people are trading Bitcoin with one another, if they're using it as an electronic peer-to-peer cash system, then they're not buying and they're not selling Bitcoin. It doesn't cause the price to go down in the same way if people take profit. So that's what I'm here to talk about today, the Bitcoin gray market, but I don't want to jump into it too fast. So if you guys have anything else you want to say about it, go for it.
I want to ask one more question actually about this topic. Bondor, on your side, AI, and it'll kind of lead into the gray market piece of it. But I'm kind of curious, do you see AI as an enabler of like Bitcoin staying with the plebs, or do you think AI is going to be exploited by big finance, as we already know it is, like all the algorithmic trading we've seen from like FTX and again, they don't exist anymore, but like those algos are still working because we see them every day at 10:30. You start trading Bitcoin and you see that big dip. So like, do you think finance is going to use AI in such a way that they're going to wrangle, a lot more of the power and the Bitcoin away from the plebs? Or do you think, we might actually see like a resurgence of the plebs using AI to actually kind of like not co-opt it back, but, coerce more and more people into getting an understanding of, oh, hey, I should use the freedom money versus using, the cuck bucks that are keeping me enslaved. And I can actually use AI to expedite my departure from the stupid fiat clown world.
That's a complicated question. I think that in terms of AI's influence on Bitcoin, you'd want to answer the question at the like highest level possible, which is just the nature of AI. How is it a tool? What does it do? How is it programmed? How does it function? And then how do people use that tool and the rest of it? So we already know that people have built AI and embedded a whole bunch of knowledge silos into that system, right? Hey, AI, I want to search for how to make a nuclear weapon. And it'll tell you, like, no, I'm not going to tell you how to do that because that's insane, right? Like, and why do you want to search for a new, like, just the whole thing, right? And then there's all sorts of silo data that AI absolutely knows how to do, but they've built it in such a way that they're not going to allow you to access that data. Now, similarly, you can imagine a state actor being like, well, we have a money printer, and if our money hyperinflates, it's all over for us. It's all over for the money printer. We want to do everything we can to protect that asset. Consequently, we want to make sure that nobody researches anything that's related to this. We want to keep the nature of money secret. Now, that's a very hard thing to do. Like with a nuclear reactor, not that I know how to make any of this stuff, or with a nuclear bomb, not that I know how to make any of this stuff. It's an extremely technical and specific specification. You need to have this amount doing this thing in this particular context under these circumstances with these particular guidelines and all sorts of, like, it's a very, very in the weeds technical kind of thing. Bitcoin, as we're all well aware, you can come to Bitcoin from economics, from game theory, from history, from trying to understand money, from all of these, from religion, all of these different things kind of lead you to Bitcoin. So it's like censoring, like if they were to try and silo what is money, they'd be trying to censor, my goodness, just all of human history in some capacity, right? Like you're going to have a very hard problem of doing this stuff. You're going to have to be censoring people from understanding these seemingly unrelated things. But when you take the unrelated thing and the unrelated thing and the other unrelated thing, and you put them all together, it points to Bitcoin. And so, like the high level, I think that yeah, states are going to try and use Bitcoin to shut down the plebs, and Wall Street's going to try and use, states are going to try and use AI to shut down the plebs. Wall Street's going to try and use AI to shut down the plebs. But the plebs are also going to use AI to shut down Wall Street and shut down the state, and have access to these incredible tomes of information that allow them to quickly and effectively wage the ideological warfare against our adversaries. So, I think that's the high level. At the more practical level, I mean, absolutely, BlackRock is going to pay OpenAI crazy amounts of money to get a live feed, or jump trading, or whatever high frequency trading thing. They're going to pay so much money to get immediate millisecond access to the prompts that people are submitting to AI, because they're going to want to know what the market sentiment is with regard to any particular asset at any particular time. So yeah, and then they're going to take advantage of that to completely undermine anyone's, or to front run, like literally front run anyone's kind of or market wide, call it mass formation psychosis, right? Where the madness of crowds, they're going to want to front run any kind of madness of crowds that takes over in the market. Consequently, the madness of crowds is going to be less or more depending on the direction that they want it to go. So.
I'm actually curious, Corvus knots and like a stupid idea is coming into my head. I'm way on the, I don't want to get into Corvus knots, but I'm way in the knots. Yeah. But I just had this idea of the wrangling of truth, right? And I think one of the things that like is so powerful about Adam Back's idea of hash cash, and for those who don't know, like, one of the things that Satoshi said in the white paper was this thing called hash cash. This was Adam Back's idea, and the point of it was essentially you need to solve a hash, like an algorithmic hash. You need to spend some energy if you want to send somebody some spam email. It's like you need to waste something, you need to spend something, versus just like being able to spam everybody ad nauseum for free. That was the whole point of hash cash, and that's part of like where the hashes come from here with Bitcoin. Where I'm going with this, though, is I think could be interesting is, you guys seen this Grokpedia thing that they're talking about, where it's like the truth engine that they want to build into Grok, and it's like I think it's really interesting. But I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, what GPT is doing with this like audio only AI thing, where it's like no screen, you just kind of talk to it, and you're kind of like having this companion with we're having a conversation the same way we're doing this here, right? Like, there's a video component, but at the end of the day, like human communication, person to person, is essentially just an audio conversation, right? You can close your eyes and talk to somebody and kind of like still get a similar style feedback loop, and that's kind of what they're building. The problem with that is whoever's coded that AI is actually the arbiter of truth. Like that's the key here. And so what I'm thinking of that I think could be interesting is, I don't think storing arbitrary data on the base layer is the correct way to do things. However, I do think some kind of like L2, and I have no idea how this works because I am technically incompetent, but that has a hash cache style like ethos to it. That's like essentially like the hash encyclopedia Britannica, like the hash cache encyclopedia Britannica could be interesting because it's like people can waste their money over time trying to chain to throw barbs at Goliath, right? But it's like if you make the hash to change something on like the Donald Trump thing like exponentially more expensive, it's like you're going to get to a point where it's like, all right, if people really want to try to rewrite history, they can do that, but it's going to be at a cost kind of thing. And so I don't know. I'm just interesting. I'm curious your thoughts on an idea like that. It's totally organic and just kind of came out now, but it will, I think, kind of lend itself to what you're kind of talking about with this gray market stuff. Is in my mind where I'm going is that is the only way I could see if plebs are maintaining something like that we could actually get a good part of Bitcoin back into the hands of plebs and to devs and to engineers away from BlackRock and whoever it is. Because if there is a independently maintained thing like that requires Bitcoin to change and to update, it could be interesting. It could be an interesting way to kind of like, hey, here's truth. Like if you want to try and rewrite history, cool, you can do that. People will rewrite it against you, and it's going to cost Bitcoin too. But I don't know. I'm curious. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Before Anton, like I think Anton, you should really describe in detail gray markets. But I just want to emphasize JD's point here. One of the biggest tragedies in Bitcoin over the last, 5 years is this push for the ETFs and then reliance on the ETFs and really just not even engaging. Like Peter McCormack, for instance, it's like weighs in on the node thing. He's like, I've never run a node. And you're like, man, that's a burn, buddy. That's like just a self-own, ultimate self-own. Because what you're admitting to with that, if you're saying you've never run a node, is that you're saying you've never run your own Lightning address. You don't know, or your own Lightning node. You don't know the intricacies, the costs and trade-offs, of course, but also the advantages, like the things that it allows you to do. For instance, JD, getting to your point directly, with Lightning and with a social layer, something like Nostr, you can begin to build social rapport that's verifiable. Hey, I'm going to sign some kind of contract that says I'm going to send a Lightning invoice to so-and-so, provided that they send work to me, and we're just going to have the whole like work or product or whatever. And we're just going to put the whole thing publicly on Nostr so anybody can go back and look. Oh yeah, like they did business. It all checked out. He got paid, gave a good review. And so, yeah, of course, I'll absolutely like hire this guy because it's like all verifiable and they can't, all the messages are just there. Great. That'll work. And then you can kind of build systems on top of that where you start to, oh yeah, I'm going to pay for my own Wikipedia or a collective Wikipedia and build the whole thing in public and go through the processes there. But the larger point is, if you are not engaged in the physical, self-sovereign running your own code, cypherpunk's own code, you are missing out on so much. So Anton, yeah, hand it off to you with regard to gray markets, because
In the game.
I have a lot of noise behind me. I hope that I can get through this without too many crazy interruptions. But okay, I want to say I am not talking about doing anything illegal. I just want to get that out there ahead of time. Black markets, that tends to be things that are illegal. Let's say you want to buy a passport that's not a real passport. That's something you buy on the black market. You want to buy a firearm with the serial number grinded off it. That's the black market. You want to buy drugs. That's the black market. I'm not talking about those things. Okay. I'm not talking about illegal things. In the early 2000s, Roger Ver went to prison because he was selling giant, this is a chapstick, but he was selling giant fireworks on eBay, and he was calling them pest control. And he had a website, memorydealers.com. He made millions of dollars selling explosives online. Now, he took the money in cash. He went through a third party, eBay. All of that is, no matter what you're selling, if you do that, you have to abide by state regulations. You have to abide by federal regulations. You have to collect sales tax. You have to do a lot of extra steps. You have to pay fees to the third party. Bitcoin, and people just don't understand this. They will. Bitcoin's been around a long time. People really should understand this, but they don't. I'm just going to read from the white paper. This is the first line of the white paper, okay? The title, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Abstract, a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. With these AI tools, these LLMs, Grok, Sonnet, Claude, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, you are now able to code anything you want. If you want to make a website, a marketplace website, if you want to create the next Airbnb, if you want to create the next Uber, if you want to do Lime scooters, if you want to do Outdoorsy, which is like the RV sharing platform, if you want to create a platform like this, before these existed, you had to have an office building full of devs, of coders, probably dudes that you brought from a foreign country with an H-1B visa. And there started to become crazy competition over these engineers. You don't need to do that anymore. You have 1,000 engineers at your fingertips. I just signed up for Super Grok, $30 a month. With that, I can literally code eBay if I want to. I can literally make Craigslist if I want to. So I started doing this on a website recently, and I was using a WordPress with their plugins, and then I tested Shopify. The problem, if you use these, they are set up to run off of fiat. It immediately is asking you, well, what state are you in? Do you want to collect sales tax? If you want to use these advanced features to collect from different currencies, you have to pay for the professional version of the plugin. What's your tax basis? All these things. If you want to sell a generator in California, there's certain generators you can sell in all other 49 states. You can't sell it in California. Sales tax is different depending on where people are living, all these things. None of that stuff matters anymore if you are selling in Bitcoin and collecting in Bitcoin. You don't need third parties. You don't need to worry about state regulations. And I'm not saying to do anything illegal. I'm just saying when you are using third parties, they have to go through all these regulations. If you're using the Bitcoin gray market, none of those things exist. It is totally on you, the dealer, the salesperson, to do any of that stuff if you want to. But nobody is going to force you to do it, and people don't understand this yet.
I mean,
and if
apart from it being like illegal in certain circumstances, but yeah, your point still stands. Yeah.
One thing I will say though, really quick on that though, is like the technically certain garage sales are illegal, right?
Yes.
Like essentially,
my daughter's lemonade stand is illegal.
Yeah, it's like technically what you're talking about, Anton, is a garage sale. Like that's literally the better way to think about it. Is because I think some of these terms get like lost on people if they're like oh, gray market, or they hear, and it's the same thing with like, you know, credit default swaps and like CD, like all these stupid like terms that are intentionally created to obfuscate the actual meaning or to confuse people. Like fog of war is one thing the government and people in power use, which is basically the shroud of secrecy, right? Like they don't want you in the know because like the easiest way to just say credit default swaps is insurance, right? It's literally just an insurance contract that if it goes the wrong way, then they have to pay the insurance contract. That's literally all these things are. But they use these big words because it is a specific style of insurance contract, sure. And so like there is more inside baseball and like how you get there. But the moral of the story is the simplest version of some of these things and actually like using that word versus like a gray market. It's probably actually a better way. So most people get it because it's the same mechanic, right? Like if I go to your house or your daughter's, lemonade stand and I buy lemonade from her in Bitcoin, technically there's a sales tax on that, right? And I'm not, I'm saying you should pay the sales tax. You should all that, sure, right? Whatever your state regulations are, do it. But just for an understanding of like, if you've ever gone to a garage sale or an estate sale and you just paid in cash, that was a gray market transaction.
Right now, if you drive around Los Angeles starting at about 5 p.m., if you drive around from 5 p.m. to midnight, every major street and every major intersection you cross through, there's a little tent set up. And there's a kebab of meat spinning and smoke billowing in the air. And there's a line of people paying cash for street tacos. The people who are selling those street tacos, they're probably illegal immigrants. They probably got food stamps through the California EBT program. They probably went to Costco, bought all that meat and bought the picnic tables and all this stuff. And they're selling it for cash and they're probably not paying income tax. And those are gray market transactions. They didn't go to the city and get the little they didn't go to a food safety course. So you're taking a risk, but look, there's a line of people who are willing to risk explosive diarrhea for that cheap, delicious street tacos from the Ecuadorian lady who crossed over the Darien Gap up through Mexico and is now on the street corner on Colorado Boulevard in Los Angeles. That is a version of the gray market. Those people absolutely, they should be registering their business. They should be going through the health code. They should be paying their income tax on that cash that they get. They absolutely should. They should be following the laws. They should probably get citizenship too. Are they? I don't know. It's up to them. I'm just saying it's up to them.
Well, they're certainly not paying rent, that's for sure, which allows them to deeply undercut every other restaurant in the vicinity. Consequently, they can offer food for way cheaper.
Yeah. You can't afford a $5 taco if you have a $50,000 monthly mortgage.
I've been thinking about this so much lately. If there is a brick and mortar idea that you now have the ability to put that idea on the internet. You have 1,000 of the best coders in the world just waiting to do the code for you to create this thing. And you can set it up with no USD, with no pounds, with no euros, with no weird tax regulations, with no third parties that you have to pay any fees to. You can charge people in Bitcoin and you can anchor that Bitcoin to US dollars if you want to, so that, if the price of Bitcoin goes up or down, you're still getting the same amount of value, but that money is not going into your bank account. That money is going into however you set it up. You can have it be going to a hardware wallet. You can be having it go into an app on your phone. And when I say money, I mean Bitcoin. I'm not talking about money, by the way. I'm talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about code. I'm talking about speech. You can be selling in Bitcoin. You can be receiving in Bitcoin. And what you choose to do with that, that's up to you. If you want to figure out your tax situation, if you want to take it in as income or sell it for capital gains or whatever, absolutely, you should do what you're legally required to do. You should follow the laws, keep yourself out of trouble, keep it squeaky clean, do whatever you have to do. But I just want people to understand that the Bitcoin gray market absolutely exists and plebs are not taking advantage of it. And we have an insane opportunity to create these things, ways for people to receive value and use Bitcoin to receive that value. The opportunity is crazy.
I think the thing that's the most interesting for me about this is those engineers that you're talking about, the AI, right? It's interesting to talk about working with agenic, AI, which is basically like an AI agent, i.e., a microchip that you employ for something, for a task. But it's interesting because I've had a lot of conversations with Grok, right? Which is weird to say. But I've had conversations with AI and kind of like talked about this idea of like, hey, if I were to pay you, if you were able to accept, currency, what would you want? Would you want pounds? Would you want dollars? Would you want gold? And it's kind of like talked in circles about different things. Like, well, if you paid me in dollars, I'd have to go through these intermediaries and I'd have to go through a bank, and I'm not a person, so I can't set up this bank account. And if you wanted to pay me in pounds, but you're in the United States, like that's going to be kind of a problem. And then it's like gold, cool, I can make a new silicone chip, but then I have to be something to make a chip, so I can't do that. And so it's like me as an AI, as a computer, as a digital native, literally, the AI is like, no, Bitcoin is the money of the future because it is literally the money that we as AIs can understand, and it's finite, right? And so it's really, really interesting to think about this world where, we are coming to a world where whatever device you're on right now, you're going to be able to plug it in, and then it's going to be able to lease out its power to whoever wants to buy it, in the same way Tesla is talking about leasing out their cars, just like Uber in the future, and it's going to be completely digital, completely seamless, and completely done on Bitcoin. Like that is literally the future that's coming, and that is going to be a gray market idea for a lot of people as it first starts out. And I think that's going to be actually one of the ways that we can kind of reclaim back from BlackRock, reclaim back from all these, ETFs and everything else like that, because you're going to have, people who can actually redeem their ETF stock. There's going to be a moment where you're going to have, a registered custodian or a registered trader, and that person is going to be a Boeing, or it's going to be a Raytheon, or it's going to be one of those people that have a large stake in an ETF that makes an in-kind transaction where they say, hey, we need Bitcoin, because they need to deploy that Bitcoin immediately to work with an AI agent. And then if that AI agent is one that you own and that you've created, you could actually get Bitcoin back out of the hands of governments. And that's going to be really, really interesting, because this cycle where there's been an ivory tower for Wall Street, there actually is a way for it to end. And there actually is a way for it to end where not only does it end, but anybody who is capable or interested or willing to put in the sweat equity, regardless of where you are in the world, you will be able to get a seat at the table by utilizing these AI agents. So I don't know. For me, it's interesting. Like I do think Uptober, until we figure that out, is canceled. Like I legitimately do believe that, because at the end of the day, the only people winning right now, it's like, sure, there are like some plebs who are winning, but the majority of people are not winning because they don't have Bitcoin, because they don't understand it, because they don't get it. And so until we get to that world where everyone can take their seat at the table, I personally think Uptober is canceled kind of for most people.
Yeah. To speak to that just colloquially, at the last meetup, we asked the bartender, I asked the bartender, like, how things are going and, all that, because we meet at the same place. We got friendly with the bartender. And he was basically saying that, this touches on a wider point, of course, but he's basically saying that business has been super slow. People are not going out. People are not going to the bar. People are not throwing parties. Why? Because they don't have any agency. Like the economy, like, yeah, we're at all-time highs, but the economy, the day-to-day, the actual rubber hits the road economy, like, bro, everyone in LA is struggling. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, Bitcoin offers a way forward for that. It literally provides a bunch of hope in that regard. But
yeah, it certainly has for the last 2 years. The last 2 years we're up 200%. you know. A friend of mine I was telling him this, that we basically doubled each year for 2 years. And then he sent me a screenshot. And I guess at some point in 2023, the price hit $17,000. So if you were dollar cost averaging and you really believed in it, then you got this insane injection of money. You more than 5x, you like 6x'd your money if you were whatever you dollar cost average in during that period where 2 years ago the price hit $17,000. So Bitcoin has been an incredible savings technology for people. And also people tend to not want to spend the Bitcoin when it's going up, because it's like, if it's looking incredibly bullish, why are you going to get rid of the greatest investment that you have that is just increasing in value? It'd be like spending out of your savings account that you have an incredible amount of interest on. They're not going to do it. But I mean, this is my belief. I can't predict the future, but I am guessing that there are going to be bear markets again. And just personally, and I think all of us are kind of in this place where we're trying to set ourselves up to be building during the bear market. And even for us doing this podcast, we don't have a huge audience yet, even though we've had some YouTube shorts that have gotten thousands of views. We don't have thousands of subscribers yet. But let's say that us just sitting here talking about AI, talking about Bitcoin, talking about art and architecture, the things that we've talked about, a lot of people get interested in, and all of a sudden we have a lot of eyes and people that are looking to us for some sort of wisdom. And then we create something like Indie Hub that we can then, in these episodes where we're trying to share intellectual value with people, we can say, hey, go to indiehub.studio and check out the films that are on there. And if you want to pay in a little bit of Bitcoin over Lightning to watch this great film that's out, you can get thousands of views in that thing. If I create, I'm not going to say what I'm creating, but I'm creating something right now. And right now, nobody knows about it. If I want to market that thing, then I can tell people about it. And the people that I'm telling about it also happen to be Bitcoiners who have Bitcoin to spend. Then if the price is kind of like going down a little bit and people have gotten this insane gain in Bitcoin, they can spend a little bit of Bitcoin, and it works out in my favor because now I am getting Bitcoin in return. The more that Bitcoiners do this, the more that we make this peer-to-peer electronic cash system a reality, which is the Bitcoin gray market. It's great for all of us because now we're getting paid in Bitcoin. We're not affecting the price of Bitcoin because we're not selling Bitcoin because the price has gone up and then making the price go down. It has a stabilizing effect. And this is what Bitcoin will do. This is what a Bitcoin standard is on a micro level. Eventually, there'll be a Bitcoin standard on a macro level, and whole countries are going to be putting like stocks will be revalued in Bitcoin, and real estate will be revalued in Bitcoin. That is going to happen, but that's going to happen in the future. The electronic peer-to-peer cash system, the Bitcoin gray market, that's right now. It's right now, and people don't get it, and that's why we're expressing it. There is. I don't like saying there's money to be made because that starts sounding greedy. But look, you need income to survive. And there's endless money. There's literally endless money. We were talking about how Doge discovered the 14 money printers that literally can just print endless money. There is not a finite nature to money. There's only a finite nature to Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, but there is literally endless money. So there is nothing wrong with creating value and getting paid in Bitcoin, which is an opportunity that we all have right now.
Yep. I think one thing too that, to Saylor's credit, Saylor understands that there's literally endless money. Like people who see what he sees, the same thing with Metaplanet and all of these other, Bitcoin treasury companies, like you should own the underlying baseline, right? But these guys understand the whole concept of there's literally endless money. And so if you can find a way to basically trade the inferior asset for the superior asset, you should do that 100 times out of 100, which is what they're doing. Because right now we all know, as Bitcoiners, we know the world is playing musical chairs. And when this thing stops, there are not going to be enough chairs. And so this is the whole point of why people say it's like, not your keys, not your cheese, or not your keys, not your coins, or get some Bitcoin, get off zero. Like all these things are little analogies, or not, little riffs on what is coming. And we're kind of going to see that. Like I am personally a bulltard. Again, I'm new here, so I guess I get to be a bulltard. But I'm being a bulltard because I do think we're kind of up for this perfect storm. I do think we're going to see Josh Mandel's, November 8, 444 come to pass. I do think we're going to come see that. Now, do we tank instantaneously afterwards? Probably likely. But we're kind of in this perfect storm right now where the government shut down, right? The government shut down, and, Nick Szabo came back, and we've seen a run from, what was it? 12,000, 13,000, we're up to 120 again. Like, we're probably going to hit an all-time high by the end of the weekend. Possible. And if that happens and the government still stays shut down next week, it's going to be interesting because a lot of, like, I'm hypothesizing a lot of the reason that we're seeing some of this movement that's, I'm going to call it more chaotic than you normally would, is because the people who would be exercising their internal government algorithms, whether it be on markets, whatever it are, they're not at work right now. And there's a high likelihood that, 1.5 million of them are never coming back to work, which is another wild and interesting thing of like, there will be new rails put on the system, right? That's the whole point of somebody in power, is they need to, the only way they can maintain their power is by exerting power. So they're going to find a way to do it. But it's going to be really, really interesting while that happens and as it comes to pass, because, the horse could just get out of the stable and run until somebody finds the reins to be able to pull back on it a little bit. It's like this run to 440. It seems possible. It's not unlikely. Is it plausible? Probably not. It's probably not going to happen. But it's kind of wild because it's like we're in this like perfect storm right now.
Do you know about the new stimulus checks?
Yeah. That just made me laugh. I'm like, oh,
there's new stimulus checks coming.
I haven't even heard of this. Unbelievable.
Yeah, $100,000 to $2,000 worth of tariffs to every person.
Yeah, so Trump is going to cut more.
Strategy range.
Yeah, and the last time that happens, Bondor, what happened? Yeah,
up.
Yeah, I think it was 1,200, right?
Bet. It went from from 12,000 or 10,000 to 60,000. Yeah,
I think the check was for 1,200, but right?
Oh, the amount of the check, yeah. But in terms of the price of Bitcoin,
and it's currently worth 21,000. Somebody posted that is the stimmies were $12,000 checks that if you had put it into Bitcoin when you got it, it's now worth 21,000.
Yeah, there was a X account. They just quit updating it. The X account was called $1,200 stimulus now worth, and it was just like $1,200 stimulus now worth 3,000, $1,200 stimulus now worth 6,000, 12, and they just quit updating it because it just got so ridiculous. They're like, what's the point of even updating this anymore?
Yeah.
That same exact thing is going to happen with these stimulus checks. The people who are smart are going to take that fake ass money, and they are immediately going to go to some exchange. They're going to buy Bitcoin. They're going to transfer that Bitcoin into a hardware wallet, and they're going to forget about it. And the price is just going to go straight up. So
here's the point I want to riff on with regard to this. It's exactly what you just said, Anton, which is the people who are smart.
Yeah.
Now, you can
are retarded.
So the whole Bitcoin gray market idea is it's twofold. One, yeah, you get the advantages of doing peer-to-peer cash, not having third parties involved in all of your banking and your business, right? You don't have to rely on the random person at your local bank branch who just might not like you and just kind of shuts down your account for who knows why, right? Personal vendettas. It's like you just avoid all of that. That's one side of it. It's awesome. But on the other side, and it's small, granted, of course, it's a small market at this point in America. Those who own and use Bitcoin as a day-to-day regular thing and understand how it works. But those people are smart. You like there are entire businesses predicated like USAA, the insurance company. It's their entire business model is that they only allow you to be a customer if you are a veteran of the United States military. Now, there's exceptions and family members and all this other stuff, of course, but the reason they're able to offer lower rates is because they've found out or they've discovered or they've carved out this market share that basically says these are more responsible, disciplined people. Disciplined people make less mistakes. When our customers all make less mistakes, that means our premiums come down because we're not paying out all of this absurd amount of money for all the people that make crazy life choices that end up in car accidents and awful things, right? It's an absolutely similar thing with the Bitcoin gray market, which is to say, you go to your local meetup and start talking to those people. Those people are way smarter than you. And it's bonkers how much smarter they are than you. And you're surrounded by smart people and it just feeds on itself. Of course, you'd want to start a business where you cut out all of the people who are not smart enough to interact with your business just by only allowing people to interact with you economically on Bitcoin exclusively.
I'm freelance. I'm a cinematographer, director, video person. And I have to be hired by somebody a lot of the time. And I found out very early on that if I just drove around town to various production companies and just went and like, hey, I'm just stopping in. How's it going? Oh, okay. I got to go do something. It was great to see you. I would get a call the next day and they'd be like, hey, we have this shoot. Are you available to go to Europe for 10 days? Sure. Okay. How's $1,000 a day sound? Sounds great. And then I would like go get this job. The real life meet space of a Bitcoin meetup allows that to happen for real. And it's so true. So you guys have this Bitcoin meetup in Los Angeles. I've only been to it a handful of times. I just have another commitment on it that same night. Every time I go, I am blown away that these people are there. They know about Bitcoin. They're just excited to talk. And you guys had a business idea of this physical space. And all of a sudden people were like giving you tours of these spaces. And you had people who are wealthy, who've made money in other businesses that are excited to help you out along that. This idea of meeting in the physical world is so powerful, and guaranteed wherever you live in the world, there are Bitcoiners that are excited and want to talk to you and want to socialize, and it will be so good for you, and real things will happen if you just go and take that chance and go and meet up with people. So do Bitcoin meetups wherever you are. Find the other Bitcoiners and good things will happen.
JD and I
graphene.
Sorry, JD, go for it.
But all that stuff. But yes, and be smart. We'll also say that. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
There are bad actors, there are feds, there are
who wants to start a Bitcoin gray market with me? I want to sell double-edged knives and 3D printed guns.
And we just got demonetized. Oh wait, we're monetized at all. But the 100% to all that. I do think that what's going to be the most interesting thing, and I want to hear what you would say, Bondor, but the as AI continues to, well, actually, let me put this a different way. There is not a single job in the world that is not going to be automated. Period. Why? Because Optimus exists. They are going to make a robot that is capable of doing any and every job in the world better than you. Period. That is what is going to happen. The only thing the robot will not be able to do is be alive. And so your value as a person will come from your ability, capacity, and capability for interpersonal and intrapersonal human relationships. And I think it's going to be really, really key for people to take the meat space aspect of life really, really serious. And it's going to be even more important over the next 50 years because at the end of the day, that is going to be the only differentiating factor between you and a robot. And so I think it's going to be, important to focus on building those relationships now. I'm sorry if your mom took Tylenol, but you should really try to focus on, getting good at relationships, getting good at. I try not to look at the screen, but yeah. But seriously, it is important to do it. And I'm awkward. You guys, if you've ever met me in person, I'm a super awkward guy. That's fine. I'm gonna swing for the fences though, and I'm gonna try to get the joke that makes everybody laugh, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about just being human, and I think that's the thing that that is your greatest asset. If you are human, is you are human, and cherish it. That's the one thing we have above the angels too, right? So, anyways, diatribe over.
The only thing I wanted to say was that while Anton was describing what happens in meat space, like at a Bitcoin meetup, I just wanted to reiterate, both JD and I were not deeply nodding. Yes. Correct, Anton. That's right. Real things happen. It's bonkers. Sorry. Go ahead, Anton.
Yeah. I was just saying that it's this strange thing with Bitcoin. It's an electronic peer-to-peer cash system that allows people who don't know each other to transact value over the internet without having to go through a trusted third party. A Bitcoin meetup is a trusted third party, and it's not over the internet. It's real peer-to-peer. It's in physical space. And it's just strange. I don't really have an answer for it, how Bitcoin does this, that Bitcoin is this thing that just exists on all of the Bitcoin nodes, and it's this math that's being mined, and it's just kind of out there in the world everywhere, decentralized, and yet it causes physical things to happen in reality. It causes architecture to get better. It causes people to get in better shape, eat better food, to have better relationships, to value their own relationships with their family, with their loved ones more. So it does these physical things. It also deepens people's faith. There's a huge contingent of Jesus following Christians who are also Bitcoiners, who Bitcoin somehow, instead of making them think about money more, it actually causes us to put less of our faith in money, and we go and put more of our faith in God, and we stop thinking about money so much. Yeah, we get obsessed with Bitcoin and with all these ideas, and we're like, wow, there's so much opportunity that Bitcoin has created. But it actually frees us from the fear and anxiety of fiat. And then we're like, wait, what are the really valuable things? I'm not going to, because I was so fearful of this eroding value that now I'm freed up. I have more time. My mind is clearer. What's actually important? Oh, real relationships with people and my friends and my family. And what can I do that's actually valuable that'll outlast me? And somehow Bitcoin inspired people to start valuing things that are actually valuable and to stop valuing things that weren't valuable. It's incredible.
It's it's interesting for me, the if you really look at it in a long enough time horizon, the fact and the notion that Bitcoin is going to cause people to care less about technology, because you're going to get to a place where the reason fiat has so many problems is because when you put it down, it's not where you left it. And so what I mean by that, there's an adage, if you're not in Hollywood, there's an interesting thing about Hollywood. And this is kind of a union mentality, but it's a big thing in Hollywood. If you didn't put it there, don't freaking touch it. Because the whole point in Hollywood is if you're a camera guy and you put your lens somewhere, you need to be able to go back immediately to find that thing when you need it, because of how fast and high paced and how tight these schedules are. If you didn't put the light there, don't touch it. If you didn't move that stand, don't touch it. There's a very, very structured and rigid decorum on set that is specific and intentional, because if you're trying to be helpful, you're actually not being helpful. You're actually causing more problems, because if somebody can't go back to where they put something to get it, you're actually causing more problems than you're solving. Coming back to fiat is kind of a similar entity in the sense that you cannot put fiat down and come back and pick it up in the way you expected to, because it's always going down in value. And so you don't have any mooring with fiat, because at the end of the day, it isn't moored to anything. That's what happened in the Nixon shock in 1971. Like, as soon as we untethered fiat from gold, it just became this runaway hot air balloon. And so now the problem we have is the government keeps trying to tell us, oh, hey, we can deflate the balloon. But the answer is always, well, how do you deflate the balloon? Well, we just inflate it faster. And it's like, well, you're not wrong, because eventually the balloon is going to explode. But then as soon as that balloon explodes, there's kind of this thing called gravity, and it's going to hurt. And so that's kind of where we're at right now, is like they're pumping so much extra hot air, M2, into this hot air balloon that as soon as the music stops, there's not enough parachutes on this hot air balloon. And so it's going to be really, really painful for a lot of people. And the interesting thing now is there is a secure, decentralized, uninhibited store of parachutes. And all you got to do is trust in it. And it's hard, because it's weird when somebody tells you wizard money, magic internet money is literally the way to save yourself. But it's the thing. So weird.
Yeah, in terms of the stability on it, it really is incredible how our entire economy is predicated on this idea that, like, oh yeah, you have to keep inflating the balloon, why do you have, well, because we're just going to lose the value. Like, all of our everything, all of our economy, all of our lives is kind of like circles around this efficiency. We have to make things a little bit faster. We have to do things a little bit cheaper. It's always this, like, turn it, like, push more pressure on. Well, why? It's because we're losing value if we don't do anything. And under a Bitcoin paradigm, no, it's just stable. See, the efficiency doesn't matter. Well, what matters? The relationship. What matters? Oh, the handshake. What matters? The looking in the eye, the telling of a joke. Like, the things that are human matter again, not the absurd pressure cooker of technology and efficiency and study and stay up late and don't sleep and, like, whatever happens to your family happens to your family. It's like, no, all that stuff just kind of takes care of itself. Yeah. JD puts a Red Bull up. All of that stuff kind of becomes less important now, because we have the stability to just lean on our economic productivity as it allows us to participate with the things that actually matter in our lives: our family, our spouse, our kids, our relationships, telling a good joke. It's awesome.
We've got the best, we as Americans, we have the best money, US dollars. And still, multiple times, the money has just been repriced. The gold was once confiscated, and then a few weeks later, it just had a different price. Nixon just took us off the gold standard one day. They tell us inflation is transitory, and then all of a sudden groceries are 4 times as expensive. So we have the best money, we have the most trustworthy money, and still we cannot trust the people who are in control of our money. Think about what it's like for everybody else in the world using these other currencies that just get printed and inflated to insane degrees. The politicians are incredibly up in your face corrupt. And what Bitcoin does is, there is no politician, there is no government, there is nobody in control of it. And I think it's why we've been freaking out over the core versus knots debate, even though that doesn't even really technically affect the price. We psychologically do not like the idea that anybody could possibly be in control and have of Bitcoin and corrupt Bitcoin, which nobody is in control of Bitcoin and nobody really can corrupt Bitcoin. But man, people can try. They can try to do it and it pisses us off. And we're going to fight against it because everything in us as Bitcoiners is against putting any trust anymore in third-party institutions. And that's part of the reason why, yeah, when you put down fiat, you don't know that it's going to be there when you come back, because it's not. They tell us that it is going to inflate at least 2%. Like that's their goal. So they're going to take half the value of everything you worked for every 30 years. Institutions can freeze your bank account. They can take your money. They can garnish your wages. They can do so many things to take the value of what you've worked so hard for. And now we have a way to escape that. It's existed for 15 years. It's Bitcoin and it's beautiful.
If your value is not secured by something as real as gravity, it is not secure. Period. And so I think if you're watching this now and you are like, Bitcoin just seems like this like fad or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, I get that. I dismissed it for a long time, much to my current dismay. But I think the biggest thing for me and the biggest understanding that I've come to terms with is the only thing that matters is truth. And Bitcoin is based on one of the ultimate truths that I would say everybody, regardless of, Christian, non-Christian, person of faith or not faith, would agree upon, which is physics. Like at the end of the day, light travels at a certain speed, gravity pulls at a certain, pull, speed, force. And so because it is based on the laws of thermodynamics, it is something you can trust. Whereas your fiat is only controlled by the winds of change and the hot air inside the breaths and the chests of politicians. So with that, I would say if you don't have any Bitcoin, you should go buy some, because if Uptober is not canceled, hold on to your butts.
Well said. Nothing to add. Full points.
So
The only thing I want to add is drink a pot of coffee, choose your favorite LLM, and make your own Bitcoin gray market. Usually I say buy Bitcoin, but right now I want to say earn some Bitcoin, because that opportunity is staring you in the face and it's not going to take you a year to make it happen. It's just going to take you a few days, a few weeks maybe, but you have the opportunity right now. So go and earn some Bitcoin. The time is now.
go get some.
Thanks for tuning in to Better by Bitcoin. Bitcoin makes everything better. Like, subscribe, and follow us on X at BetterBYBTC, YouTube at BetterBYBitcoin. Not financial advice, mathematical certainty.